What do you want me to speak about?
We're going to show the video of the ball and vase. You want me just to show it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead and show it. If anybody's got any questions, just shout them out.
Okay, so we can stop the video for questions if you want. I'll tell you now, it's a 40-minute video that Angelo and I made this winter. This is the world premiere, except for Susquehanna saw it not too long ago. And I'm going to share screen and get it started. This is the 540 version. After this meeting, I'm going to post the higher resolution version on the club site and YouTube. So let me see, share and share. You got it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Demo by Angelo of Magic Brand Woodturning of precision lathe work using templates and tangents, recorded on PhoneCam at Lancaster, Pennsylvania by John Kelsey, February 2021.
These work by means of dumping out the shell and the ball at the same time and multiplying the ball. So this one here, they take this out. See if I can do it. Okay, there you go. So then they'll take the shell, put it back in, cover it up, vanish this ball, vanish that ball. The vase consists of the lid, the ring,
That's the secret.
and the base, the shell and the solid. The first pieces I made a good wood turning fit for a box. And when I sent them to the guy that ordered them, he called me up and said, "These are no good. I'm sending them back. They're crap." I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "The fit is too tight." So these things actually have to fall apart in order for the magician to manipulate them in the fashion that they want. Now this is an original made by Floyd Thayer, who in his day, I'm going to say late 1800s, early 1900s, was his prime time. He was the consummate wood turner of his time. So everybody that collects anything wants to collect Floyd Thayer. So this is actually a replica of Floyd Thayer's original vase in the size that he made it from the piece I copied. It's got this fancy finial, which is a pain in the patoot to turn because there's so many things going on. And I favor this kind of ball finial myself.
So how did you learn this?
I just figured it out. When we moved back to Rhode Island, I got a phone call. So they sent me a sample. And I kept the sample around for about 6 months trying to figure out how do I even start with this thing. One Sunday afternoon, I finally sat down and just measured everything with a pair of calipers and a ruler. And then it dawned on me that I have to start with the solid in the shell first. Making the drawings made me think. So that's how I started. So these are ready to go. These will be the next ones up after I finish what's out in the shed. And they're all different woods. And for me, the tickle was the different kinds of woods and not the actual shape or the turning or what they did afterwards. So, I mean, there's just wood in here that's brown mallee burl, red mallee burl, pheasant wood from Hawaii, dyed and stabilized spalted maple, Bocote. Okay, so we're going to take out the templates. This is the shell that I turned yesterday. This is the template for the inside of this shell. There's a little 1/4 inch spindle gouge, 1/16 inch parting tool, a little 1/2 inch skew, generally used as a scraper, not hardly used as a skew. 1/8 inch parting tool. This is like a 32nd of an inch, specially ground parting tool. French curve scraper, 3/8 spindle gouge, and Ashley Isles beating tool. Here I have the calipers that I use for sizing different parts of the vase when I turn the vase. So the 2-inch diameter outside of the vase, the flat of the parts that fit together for the tenons. Here's the tenons. This is the flat down at the bottom, it's the diameter of that little fillet right there. So this little diameter here. Okay, we're going to do a 2-inch solid ball. The first shape that we're going to turn is an octagon shape. This is half an octagon. And then we'll turn each of those facets into quarters and then take the corners off. It's cherry. It's a lot of sapwood. So now ideally this face should be square to that face. First thing to do is turn to the diameter. Okay, so there's one corner of the octagon, the other corner. And then down this side is that corner. So let's draw those in. So there's the center line. We'll put that up. And here's the other side of the ball.
Okay.
So now what we're going to do is, because the other corner of this facet is in the wood, we're going to turn the tenon to that corner. We're going to turn down to that corner. Yeah. Okay, so there are the four equal pieces of that facet. And take it over the side. Mark the 4 equal pieces there. And do the same on this side. At this point and at this point on the facets, it's the true diameter, the true radius. So that's what's nice about turning to tangents, is that you get there right away. Okay, so again, the other corner, this other corner on this, for this facet, is in the wood. So this dimension becomes the diameter of the tenon. Okay, so then we're going to turn the corners away. That corner, this corner, that corner, and that corner. And then I'm just going to use a skew as a negative rake scraper. a little high on the ends. Close enough. That's pretty good. It's a flat spot there. And I just carved that off by hand. I'm going to use the blue mark on the drill bit. So that's the first thing I'm going to do.
Now, is that going to be the final depth, or are you shy of it by some known amount?
Yeah, it's shy by something.
But like a big something or a little something?
A tiny little something. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the template and we're going to scribe the diameter of the shell. And we're going to make that a little bit tight. So it's like a 32nd or less smaller than the outside of that template. So that's the line I'm going to turn to. This is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. I think this is a detail gouge, a long and strong. So I'm going to go in and make a back cut. Start with a hole between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Rub the bevel in the opposite direction that we're used to seeing. And we're just going to follow it out. So that's down to the depth, the hole that we drilled. So now to turn up this larger diameter, I've got to raise the tool rest because you saw that I was struggling to get it to ride the bevel when it was down a little bit lower. So now I'll come up and get that bigger diameter. The problem with this cut is that the hole is not hemispherical, it's more cone shaped. So at about 45 degrees in there, there's a flat. So we erred on the side of caution. We didn't take the whole cut. And we'll scrape that out with the French curve scraper. It's a negative rake scraper, and it's made from an old planer blade. And when I first started making these, because I thought I would need a scraper that traced every radius that I would need to turn, I had a perfect radius ground on them to match the radius that I was turning. So I had 4 scrapers for each radius. And what I figured out is that the closer I came to the true radius of that tool, the bigger the bite and the bigger the catch. So I ended up grinding them into a French curve scraper and using a template. Okay, so now I've gone to the diameter that we scribed with the dividers. Check it, it's still too tight. So to me, it looks like it's getting caught right here at the edge. Looks like it might be down to here. Might be down to there, that it's too tight. I mean, fortunately on this piece, I've got plenty of wood. If I need to go deeper to make it right, I could. But sometimes there's just barely enough wood to get the shell out. Check to see the ball fits. The ball doesn't fit because it doesn't fall out, you see? So that's gotta be able to fall out of that shell. You can see even there with that little ball, it's slightly on a round still. Because I think the depth is okay, and I think the diameter out in the front is okay, but it's still getting caught up in there. So I'll take that, even though it's a little tight right there. It's not too bad. I gotta sand yet. I start with 180. Okay, so right in here, right at the very edge, there's a little bit of a touch. I have to turn it away because I couldn't sand it away. I'll go down to 120 on it. See if I can get rid of that touch. Not because it makes any difference to the magician, it just makes a difference to me. We'll sand up to 400 and call it good. Okay, so the finish I use is Depth spray lacquer and rattle cans. Give a little spritzing. And then using 4/0 steel wool and paste packs while the lacquer is still wet. And buff that in there. And everybody says, well, why do you put the wax on? Well, it's still wet. The answer is, Sal Marino told me to. Okay, so we're just going to turn the outside of the shell to diameter. That's the depth of the hollow. Okay, so this is the template I'm going to use to mark where these facets are that I'm going to turn to approximate the outside diameter of the shell. So you can see there's the center line of the radius. This is a little flat spot that'll be included in the ring of the finished piece. I'll turn that diameter at the bottom of that facet. So I'll turn down to that point right there with the parting tool. So then if we take this facet and divide it up into 4 equal pieces, I first saw turning to tangents. Myron Curtis demonstrated that, I think, in Louisville. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this corner away and this corner, the other face is inside the tenon. And I think this is called a hexadexahedron when you turn it to 16 sides. So I sanded out the facets that are going to be too close to the chuck to sand. And since the outside of the shell will be painted, I'm not going to sand to too fine a grit. That's 180 grit. So we're pretty close. We're not right on. So we're going to put 2 beads for the ring. So that's the parting cut for the top of the ring. This will be the top of the vase. And that'll be the ring. Okay, so that's a 16th inch parting tool. That's the ring right there, yep. That's the lid. So I'm going to try to make the diameter of the tenons the same so that whether you put the lid on with the ring or without the ring, it still fits the tenon. So I'm going from the outside of one side of the shell to the inside of the other side of the shell, so they got a little extra meat. Okay, so there's the shell diameter. Okay, you can see it's getting pretty close to where the mark is for the shell. So I'm going to leave it good and call it good for now. Into the diameter of the shell, as well as to set the depth on the ring. So there, you can see it's a little tight here. It's a little tight, but by the time I sand it and fit the rest of it, it'll have to work. So now I'm going to use that little beading and parting tool to scribe where the bead is going to be. So that's the front part of the bead, and the back is going to be parted off flat. This is the rim that's going to hold the shell. Now we're going to make the little ledge in the shell, in the ring, that holds the shell in place. Okay, right there, there's about a 1/16 of an inch to keep the shell from going through the ring. Okay, so that's the tenon for the ring to sit on. When we turn the little recess for the bottom of the ring. Okay, so that's the 10 that's going to fit in the bottom of that ring. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to turn the inside of the edge there to fit the ball through. That's good. Because the curve of the inside of this is roughly parallel to the outside, it's plenty easy to turn. But because you're shoving the shell up higher than the center of the outside, the tendency is to come through on the edge. So the bigger I can start on the outside, the easier it is to turn on that part. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to true up this surface and then fit the ring into the lid. So I'm going to turn this a little tight so that I can sneak up on the fit. I want this fit pretty tight because in the final turning of the outside of the shape, all three pieces are going to be together between centers. And if they don't fit nicely, then it wobbles around. And got to use paper to tighten up the fit. Okay, so I'm using the corner of the tool to scrape the shoulder and not the cutting edge. In other words, I'm using this corner of the parting tool to scrape that shoulder. So now here's where you make it or break it. You either hit it or miss it. And they're really only dust cuts. It's not like taking a lot of material away. Okay, that's good. It's really good. Now we're going to drill a depth hole. So what I'm going to measure is the depth of the inside of the shell, which is there. So we're down to about a 32nd. So I'll just take that 32nd out of the top there. Hopefully we got enough room left. Okay, so I'm deep enough, almost, but I'm close enough where I can take the difference out of the ring. This ring is going to fit on that shoulder. Good enough. I can take the rest off the ring. But you see now I got a little bit of slop in there, which I don't like. I'm going to drill another depth hole, back hollow of the base. There we go. Okay, so we got the the shell, the ring, and the solid ball all nested together. Check the fit. Fit's good. So we're home. So I'm going to go ahead and rough out this base a little bit before I turn it around, because the chucking between centers gets to be pretty tenuous. Easier to take as much wood away now as any other time. But on dark wood, it's easier to use a light pencil. These two lines represent this bird's beak right here. So before I turn down to that diameter, I want to check to see how far the hollow goes down. And it's about a 1/4 inch away. So the shoulder I just turned is that flat right there. So the voice in my head says, if it looks right, it's wrong. If it looks wrong, it's right. Now the hard part. This template is made to fit that curve when this edge touches the outside of the beak and this edge touches the shoulder. So the center line needs to be always lined up there, and you can tell where the high points are and where they're not. That's also the diameter. Not a lot. For me, that needs to be about 1/4 of an inch or a little less. Let's see what we got. We got almost 3/8 here. So that beak right there needs to be 90 degrees or parallel with the ways of the lathe, and then go into a radius into that point. Three grooves on the bottom. So even if the magicians don't see a signature, if they see 3 grooves, they know it's me. Oh, that's so pretty. Yeah, this one will stay with me. Okay. Got the bottom done, except for the very underside. The ring is mostly done. The shell is done. And we were working on the lid. Okay, so I like this little spindle here, this little finial, to be about 1/16 of an inch underneath the ball. But I can't do that with wood that's highly figured or slightly punky. But this Coca-Cola will take it. Okay. Okay, the base, the solid ball, the ring, the shell, and the lid. These work by means of dumping out the shell and the ball at the same time and multiplying the ball.
Anybody still awake?
Everybody. Angela, I
Thank
have a
you.
question. That is, did a magician approach you, or did you see this trick done, or what was the evolution of the first one you made?
The first one I made was actually a Morrison pillbox, which produces a double shell. And I don't know, can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the shell for Morrison pillbox. Fits together and presses together inside the lid. This was the first thing I was asked to make by a magician or a magic supplier. I'm not exactly sure what his way of making money was off of these things, but he gave me a standing order of 6. And then as people began to see the pieces, they would ask me to make certain things. And if you saw in the dimension drawings, it was given to me by Mario Carandi, who lives in Florida and is a big magic collector. He asked me to make these little ball vases. So that's how I started making them.
And approximately how many have you made?
The Morrison pillboxes, chop cups, other magic paraphernalia, wands. My guess is upwards around 400 pieces.
Whoa.
Angelo, sorry.
Go ahead.
Quick question for you. Why did you not use your tangent method for when you were turning the outside of the vase? You know, you put the two halves together, and then you could use the tangent method to sort of get the initial sphere put on.
You could do that. I guess I don't do that.
Okay. just because you did. I mean, after a while, you get somebody this shapes. I was just wondering if you know. Okay, fair enough. You don't.
Well, yeah, I don't. I have the 2 benchmarks, one at the bird's beak and one at the fillet at the finials. So I use that curve template to hone in on the radius.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I actually, after filming this, I actually went out and set out to make one from itself rather than from drawings. I used a template to make the ball in the first place, but then everything else was made to fit the ball. So from the ball, the ring, the shell, the whole thing. So it's not. Angelo would have this be perfectly round. Mine's, I don't know, a pear shape. But I'm not selling it to magicians, so I don't care. But you can do this as he does with templates, but it actually is possible to simply make a ball and build on.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree. I also did the same thing as John did. And I made one with a Purple Heart ball. Same type of thing. After this is a 3rd attempt as opposed to the first attempt. But they're a lot of fun. For me, it's the precision of the initial part of this shell, which is quite thin, was intimidating. But using the octagon or the tangents method to turn the top of the shell really took a lot of that fear away, and so you can get a quite thin shell quite easily if you do that. You know, of course, you have to have a hardwood, but I would say that the tangent method really is a key secret for turning the balls and shells.
Yeah, I think the guy we need to thank for that is Myron Curtis out of Virginia Beach. He's the guy who demoed it at I said Louisville, but it may have been Richmond symposium. I don't remember really which one, but that's where I saw it for the first time.
Yeah. And how thick would you say your shells are normally?
Normally they're a 16th or less. I go for less. I shoot for less.
Okay.
Well, the thing I've made the most of, other than the pieces, are replacement rings for the magicians that drop the rings and lose the rings or snap the rings.
So what you're saying is that if you give one to a friend, you should give him an extra ring so he won't come back at you.
Well, I've done both. I've given extra rings and extra shells.
Anybody else? Questions for Angelo?
No.
Not a question, but a comment. I'm impressed.
Thanks.
Very, yes.
Gonna go out to the shop and melt my tools.
You're the first guy I saw that had returned the ball. So that was, geez, that had to be still in Connecticut, where it had to be 1994 or 5 in there, that range. I still got it somewhere. I got to dig it out and show it to you.
That's amazing.
You signed it.
Pretty cool.
Any other comments?
I want to say that I'm retired and I don't write articles or long videos about other people much anymore, but this was so interesting. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to do. So it's a fascinating project and really a challenge to test your skills.
Yeah, in the time that we did this video and your still photo shoot, I've made, well, including the one in Cherry that we finished the other day, last Friday, 15.
And I've photographed bits and pieces of most of them.
Yep, you did.
Yeah. We're working on a journal article as well.
The great presentation, Angelo.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
I wish I
Angelo.
was more eloquent, but it is what it is.
You were very eloquent.
Yeah.
Could
excellent.
I
Absolutely
also
so.
could I also add that you can get these vases on the internet made out of plastic for $3 or $4, but nothing replaces a nice wooden one, particularly since it's the ones like Angelo's history go back. They all started out of wood, so people are looking for the wood ones for collections, I think. And
Yeah,
I have a magician friend who was just amazed that I could even make one, let alone the other. So, you know, making it out of wood makes it special.
it's true. Yeah, I wouldn't sell these for $3 or $4, that's for sure. The wood, some of the woods that I use cost more than that.
Yeah.
Like that piece of Cocobolo you saw in the video cost more than $3 or $4.
Yeah.
Have you used boxwood for any of them?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Have you used boxwood for any of them?
Yeah, boxwood. The shell that we turned in the video was boxwood.
What do you do about the inside of the shell? How do you get that to match the lid, inside of the lid?
If you got a fairly straight grained wood, if you take your shell from the same piece of wood, whether it comes from the bottom or the top, the grain will usually match. When you've got a burl or a highly figured wood, it's almost, I'd say curly maple or highly figured wood like that, it's hard to get a match, but burl, it doesn't matter. I mean, the burl looks like it matches anyway. You know?
Okay. So what length of piece of wood would you start out with if you're doing a ball? But you don't need to do the ball, but you need to do the shell and the base all together. So if I'm doing a 2-inch diameter vase, how long of a piece would I need to start the project?
I like to start with a 2x2x6 at the smallest. 1 3/4 inches is the dimension on the drawing that you saw. But it's hard. It's hard to keep that shell from coming through the lid underneath the finial. So I like to keep the blanks at 2 1/4. 2 1/4 square by 6 will give you a shell and a vase with a fairly thick lid, so that you can you can have enough wiggle room to sink or raise the shell inside the lid.
Thank you.
Did I send you the drawing?
Fantastic.
You want a drawing?
Yeah, you sent me a drawing, but I was just, and so if you're taking a larger diameter vase, you'd be saying 2.5 inch vase, and you'd give it a little bit longer, like an 8-inch piece. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.25 by 2.25 by 6. If it's a little shorter, you can part off the blank for the shell and glue it to a waste block and turn your shell from there.
Okay.
And so that you don't lose any wood inside the chuck.
Cool. Thank you very
In
much.
fact, I just did that the other day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Barry.
All right, the only thing I have in closing is to remind people if they'd like to come and visit our new home that we'll be occupying starting in maybe June or July, I'm hoping. Join us
I've got one.
at 250 Commerce Drive in New Holland.
Barry,
Doug?
one thing to add. Next month's challenge is just a simple title. It's called Split Personality. With whatever you want to do with that split personality, what you come up with in a turning. Thanks.
I'm sure we'll have some interesting submissions.
Yes, I can
Like
just imagine.
like a bowl that fell apart while they were turning it and say, "What? It split."
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the yes vote. It's very encouraging, and we'll report back.